Can you please tell me your name?
Did you start it already?
Yes.
Already. My name is Pau Velling, Pawvelling.
And do you give consent for me to film you?
Yes, unless I look really, really pale, then I don't.
Sure, don't look. Oh, sorry. Okay, so just make sure to look at me. Don't look at the camera.
Ah, okay, sure.
Uh,
Shouldn't you maybe be over there then?
trying to. Here.
No, I mean like, because it should cross, right?
Yeah. Oh, you mean over here?
Yeah.
Sorry. It's hard. It's just hard to see. Okay, look at me. Just like don't. Yeah, look at me. You're looking at me now.
Yeah,
Okay.
looking at your chin. I can just look at like this spot over here if you want me to.
No, you can look at me. Yeah. Look at this. So just keep your eyes there. Look. Okay, that's better.
I'll be looking at your chest area.
Very odd. Sorry, this tripod is.
Perfect.
Okay, so where are you from, pal?
I'm from Denmark, from the middle of Jutland.
And what's that like? Like, what's is it Jutland?
Yeah.
Yeah. What is it like? What was it like growing up there?
Wait, do you mean what the area is like, or?
What was it like for you personally growing up there?
Well, it's it's rural, so it's a little. It feels pretty isolated compared to New York, obviously, but it also feels isolated compared to going basically anywhere. That being said, it's a nice community and like everyone's. Yeah. Let me do that again. Wait, so what it's like growing up there?
Yeah, or like what's it like the place you're from, just generally?
Okay, it's a nice area. It's a little isolated. It's rural. I grew up in a city, in a little town of like less than 10,000 people, living like a few kilometers outside of there on a small farm. So it could feel a little isolated. And we didn't have internet to begin with. Of course, we didn't get that till I was like, I guess 11 or 12 or something like that. So it was, it felt isolated, but it was fine. We would bike to like see our friends and such.
How did you get information without the internet there?
We didn't. We knew nothing. I used to be kind of a bookworm as a kid, so I read a lot. I read many books at the school library, and I would like go. There was this library bus that would go around to like the small areas, like the small villages in the area, and it would have like, I guess, I don't know how many, a couple thousand books or a couple hundred books probably in the bus. And then you go in there and like take out books from the local library via the bus, and then you could hand it off there a couple of weeks later.
Oh, I've never heard of anything like that.
It was very nice.
Was that, so growing up, was that, I'm guessing it's normal for you then, going to a bus to get books to go to the library instead of having a bunch of libraries just available?
I mean, yeah, it's not like in the city, right? So if I wanted to go to a library, I could go to the school library, which was a small one, or I could bike to the into like the slightly bigger town, Kellerup, it was called, where there was a bigger library there. So.
And is that the only place you've lived in Denmark?
No, I lived in. I lived there, and then I moved right after high school. At the end of high school, actually, I moved to Viborg, which is, I guess, 30 kilometers from where I grew up and where I went to high school. It's the same city. It's a city of like 30,000 people, and so I lived there for almost a year before moving to Aarhus, which is the second largest city in Denmark, and it's about 300,000 people live there. And I lived there for a couple of years, and then I moved to Copenhagen, and I lived there for a little while, some years, and then I moved to New York 2 years ago.
So in Copenhagen, I understand Denmark's it's a pretty homogenous country, right?
Yeah.
What is the word, did you have a sort of identity? What was your identity there? Was there like a national identity to say like we're all Danish, or was there some other, like what does that mean to you, like the word identity?
Yeah, there's definitely like there's a pretty strong national identity. It's, yeah, it's a little odd, but there is a pretty strong national identity. Yeah, definitely. But going to Copenhagen, I was more from Jutland than I was anything else. I think because like when you come from Jutland, you're sort of like a hillbilly, right?
Is that how people treated you when you were there?
No, not in a bad sense. Only like jokingly and because of the dialect.
Do you have a strong accent compared to someone that's from Copenhagen or Copenhagen or?
Wait, what do you mean? Like a strong accent in English?
No, where the name of the town you're from is what is it again?
Kellerup.
Kilop.
Yeah.
So would people when they hear your accent in Copenhagen, would they know that you are from the outskirts or you're from?
Just from Jutland, just that I'm from Jutland. And then some people, like the most people can recognize the Aarhus accent, and that's not what I have. And then the southern Jutland accent and the northern Jutland. And I'm from the middle, like the dead center of Jutland, and it's just a Jutland accent. Yeah.
But you could be identified by that outside of there.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah.
Oh, sorry. What were you saying?
Yeah, like it wasn't in a particularly like negative way. It's just it's mostly like it's a little teasing, but it's not much. And it's interesting because like I moved there with a bunch of friends from Jutland, and we would like we would sort of like tease back, right? So there's some like cliches about people from Jutland and they're better and harder workers than people from Copenhagen. That's what that's our version of it at least.
So it looks like you did have a version of identity, but it was based more on geography.
Yeah, sure. And it's very, it's like a fairly harmless, like it doesn't mean anything. It's many years since people were like shamed for this identity. Now it's on a like teasing level.
Right, and so now, of course, you live in the United States.
Yes.
And do you feel that your sense of identity is different here?
Yeah, it's less important.
Oh, less important? Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, I mean, like, there's so many different kinds of people here. So, I mean, first of all, there's not a big community that's, Danish. If anything, I'm European here. I think being Northern European is the closest thing to something that people can, like, recognize and, like, sort of identify with or sort of, yeah. I think being Northern European is the identity that comes closest to anything that people can sort of like recognize and identify.
And of course, living in the United States, you've been here for how long?
A little more than a year and a half.
So I'm sure you know that the way we look at identity is different than the way you looked at identity where you're from.
I hadn't noticed.
So like in Denmark, you're not a white man. You're just a Danish person from Jutland.
Yeah.
But like in the U.S., you're a white person. What is that? Have you noticed that, or what is that? How do you feel about that?
Sorry.
Like, how do you feel about that, or do you notice that like you are like that the identity in America of being a white person or a white man?
Yes and no, right? Like it's mostly through like what I sort of like recognize is just via being closer to people who have like other backgrounds. But to be fair, like sort of the places that I've lived in New York, I lived on the Upper West Side, then I go to school around Union Square, and now I live in Bushwick. It's pretty white. Like it's not. I don't feel like I recognize that there are like minorities, but it's not something I identify against in any way.
So it's not something that you think about a lot, or has affected you at all.
No, not really. But I mean, of course, because like had I moved here with a different background, it probably would have affected me, right? Like like obviously my particular like being a white Northern European male is probably the easiest sort of like identity to go into New York with and like enter the communities that there are here.
Let's see. Just one more question. What would you say is the best part of living out of Denmark or living in New York?
Well, I mean, everyone's the same in Denmark, right? Like, that's not true, of course, but it is a very, like you said at the beginning, it's a very homogeneous society, and it's less so here, which makes this place more interesting. Like, Copenhagen is very safe and nice, and I really like it there, but it also can tend to get a little boring, right? Plus, you feel removed from, like, I'm very interested in sort of like events around the world that shapes the current world and the future, right? And when you grow up in a privileged country like Denmark, and like I never had to worry about like if I'd be able to afford school, if I'd be able to afford food even. So you feel sort of like removed from all those issues that you know are important. And I mean, I guess I'm closer to that here. It's easier to understand being here than it is being in Denmark.
Is that why you came to the U.S.? Because you wanted? Well, yeah. Is that why you came to the U.S.?
No, I came to the US because I, first of all, wanted to do graduate school, but I also wanted to try and live in the US. I've had an interest in the country my entire life, so at some point I wanted to try and live here.
And is there anything else that you'd like to add, or anything else that you want to share?
No, I think that's it.
Oh. It was very awkward to look at my.
Your stomach?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, do you think it worked out?
Yeah, I don't like the framing, but I can't really do anything about that.
No, it's not the
But
best.
like, I just had to make do. But thanks a lot for helping me
Oh,
in
sure.
finding that tripod, so I have to run back over to the equipment.
Of course, no worries.
When I make my actual documentary, I will make sure to take a tripod. I'm probably gonna go to Princeton to do it.
To Princeton?
Yeah.